What's going on, everybody? Dave K here today for Marvel Super War, reviewing Storm. Storm has some amazing capabilities and is a mage in Marvel Super War. Of course, Storm has to be a mage with her abilities. Let's review what her abilities are like, some of her strengths, weaknesses, different items for her, what might be a good way to play her, and maybe not so much. Let's do it. An overall thought on Storm, just to get us started. I think Storm does have a lot of potential in terms of her ability to work in a lane, continue to knock out some of those enemy minions as she's playing in the early game, or if she's in a lane by herself without enemy heroes. She also has a good bit of range where she can do some ranged attack and hit some enemies in that fashion. That being said, she doesn't really have any great escape options. So if she does see some enemies in front of her, does present a challenge. She does have one of her traits that will help you with this, which we'll touch on in a little bit, but that does present a challenge for Storm. As she's a mage class, she's not really built to take a lot of damage, but she doesn't have a great way to escape it as well. So that's just something to keep in mind as you're playing Storm. Another thing about Storm is she is fairly easy to play. She has a limited number of abilities. They are all pretty straightforward, so you should be able to figure out Storm if you're new to the game or if you're new to MOBAs and you're new to just being this kind of playstyle, playing this kind of game. Maybe you're new to mage classes as a whole. You want to try somebody out. Give Storm a shot. It should be pretty straightforward in terms of learning her abilities and figuring out how to play a successful game with her. And Storm's hero trait is Wind Shield. After 20 seconds of not taking damage from an enemy hero, she'll gain this shield, which also boosts her movement ability. So it allows her to escape a little bit more easily, gives her an increase in 10% there in movement speed, and protects her from a hero ability if she's attacked out of the blue. So it does kind of protect you from that point we touched on earlier about movement speed, not really having escape options. That being said, if someone jumps out of the blue and attacks you, it does make it quite difficult. If someone's running at you from their side against you at the other lane, maybe you have a good chance to turn around and run away since you still have that shield with an extra 10% movement speed. But 10% is not that much movement speed, and it really doesn't last you that long. As soon as someone hits you, it goes away. So that's something to keep in mind in terms of that ability. However, if you're not taking damage from an enemy hero, again, if you're just doing a solo lane effort, you might do pretty well with this hero trait. Now let's talk about Chain Lightning for Storm. Chain Lightning is really an ability that Storm can use that allows her to use lightning, throw lightning at someone, and it chains from that one enemy to a variety of other enemies. So you throw that lightning, let's say you're behind your minions, you can throw that lightning at maybe the first enemy minion, and it can chain its way back through their minions and maybe some enemy heroes as well. So talking about keeping your distance from those enemy heroes, being able to attack them from a distance, not worry about getting too close and getting in a position where you can't really escape. If you do use something like Chain Lightning to attack from a range, or use something like Chain Lightning to eliminate enemy minions, this can be a really useful ability. Something to keep in mind in terms of how to utilize it, and maybe not so much how to utilize it. You may not find it quite as useful if you're going one-on-one against an enemy hero. Sure, you can do some lightning to them, but it doesn't chain off of anybody else. It does have a lot more range than it gives you credit for, so you really don't want to find yourself in a position where you're directly next to an enemy hero and you don't have any support and you're one-on-one. That being said, you will find this spell's a lot more useful, again, for a large farm of enemy minions, or maybe you'll come across a large number of enemy heroes all next to each other. You can use that Chain Lightning with the rest of your team to add that additional damage amongst a variety of enemy heroes. And Chain Lightning starts out at 100 damage with a cooldown of 7 seconds and consuming 30 energy. And of course, you'll see the damage goes up and the energy cost goes up while the cooldown goes down as you continue to level up this ability. And it'll just sort of help you grow and be able to be more successful later in the game, as all MOBAs do and all skills are capable of doing. But you can see those stats that I've listed here in terms of how that ability levels up. For an energy cost of 40 and a cooldown of 10 seconds, you've got the Hurricane. Storm can create this hurricane that spins towards enemies, doing damage along the way. Once it interacts with an enemy hero, it will disperse, it will sort of explode there at the end, dealing an additional 100 damage and stunning for as much as 1 second there. So you can utilize that to sort of create a safe escape for yourself if you find yourself amongst a heated battle and you're trying to escape, or maybe you're working with your allies and trying to slow down one particular enemy. You can use that Hurricane ability. Also, in that lane situation, if you use that Hurricane, deal 60 damage to all those minions along the way, and then stun that enemy hero for that 100 damage, that can be quite useful in terms of, again, doing a lot of damage to a lot of units all along the way. And again, you'll see a lot of these abilities for Storm are focused on doing damage to a variety of different units, and they're mostly lane units, minions, that sort of thing. So it creates more of a challenge for Storm to go on that one-on-one competition against an enemy hero, but does present a lot of value if you're trying to push a lane or if you're trying to balance with a team that needs someone to push a lane. And for 50 energy and a 25-second cooldown, Storm has Eye of the Storm, a lightning strike to deal some damage, and increasing damage depending upon the damage already done to your enemy. That's something to keep in mind for this one, as well as a slow effect. The enemy will indeed be slowed for a piece of this storm duration. So definitely something to keep in mind is you'll do this lightning strike, it'll sort of continue to expand and grow. It'll do more damage depending upon how much health your enemy has already lost, and it'll slow them temporarily as well. Now, something to keep in mind on this one is this will be fully recharged with no cooldown time if you manage to kill an enemy with the Eye of the Storm ability. So if you remove an enemy from play, you will get a fully recharged Eye of the Storm ability that you can immediately reuse and try to use on another enemy. So this can be a really helpful ultimate ability in using on a bunch of low health enemies if you're sort of working together with your team trying to push a particular lane or trying to push for victory. You can use it to kind of finish off a lot of enemy heroes and kind of stack it by finishing off one enemy hero and then another enemy hero and continuing to refresh that hero power by knocking out those enemy heroes. And that is a 1.5 second slow of 50% of speed for those nearby enemies. So something to keep in mind. That seems like a pretty big slow in the grand scheme of things. Definitely takes them away from their ability to escape from that situation. If you've got a lot of allies there with you, you can all band together and knock out those enemy units, and you can utilize it to finish off those enemies with Eye of the Storm and continue to stack that against other enemies as well. In terms of items, I'm thinking about the Arc Reactor, I'm thinking about the Cosmic Cube, I'm thinking about Loki's Scepter here. There's a lot of items that you can utilize for a variety of different reasons. You definitely want to look for items that have energy abilities, energy penetration or energy damage, or those that increase your energy abilities, right? So when you think about a lot of these MOBA games, there's kind of either attack power or there's magic power, and you want to think about stacking that magic power and utilizing Storm's magic power to her maximum possible strengths. So making sure you're looking for that sort of thing. Definitely want some area of effect damage in there as well, as you'll see a lot of Storm's abilities have the ability to hurt a wide number of enemies as well. In addition to, you want to make sure that you're at least preventing a little bit of speed for yourself, a little bit of armor, maybe get some boots in there and get some protection in terms of making sure you're not taking too much damage to Storm, but still focusing a lot on those energy weapons as well as the area of effect weapons. Overall, Storm has a lot of potential as a mage character. If you think of that chain lightning ability, you have the opportunity to do damage to the enemy hero at quite a distance. Maybe they're running through the jungle or they're keeping some distance from you, and you do want them to keep some distance from you. You can still do damage to them with that chain lightning ability, or maybe you're still doing damage to them with that whirlwind ability if you have a general idea of where they might be in terms of the map. Now that whirlwind ability does only go so far, but again, as you're throwing these area of effect attacks in a particular direction, envisioning you're knocking out a lot of minions and continuing to gain that experience and leveling up your lane and pushing your lane forward, you may also be doing damage to that enemy hero while you continue to keep a good amount of distance between yourself and the hero. So that does really make Storm a useful character in terms of getting that early experience, gaining some opportunity and some understanding of how to go in a lane by yourself, knock out some of those lane minions, and really allows you to develop a proficiency, particularly playing as Storm, in knocking out some of those enemy minions in your lane. So if you're looking for a good lane pusher, if you're looking for a good hero to do some finishing, if you're looking for some area of effect attacks and some attacks that can knock out a variety of minions at the same time, you may be very interested in trying Storm. Not to mention, very straightforward, not too many abilities here to master, and they are all pretty straightforward abilities as well. So if you're thinking about that sort of thing as well and looking for an easier hero to try, you may be interested in trying Storm. What do you think of this review? Do you agree with my thoughts on Storm? Is there someone else you're hoping to try? Where would you rank Storm? I would say Storm is a fairly strong champion, not necessarily my #1 go-to, and I don't necessarily love to play mages either. So for someone to really speak to me as a mage, especially in a MOBA game, I like mages as a whole, but in a MOBA game it's a little bit harder to play a mage. You need to be good about protecting your health. So in terms of a mage and protecting your health, Storm does give you a great amount of distance to be able to protect yourself that way. So I would put her in a pretty good ranking, but not my #1, not my first choice or go-to. I'm going to continue to look through all the different heroes and get a full, thorough understanding of what all the heroes are all about and be able to provide you context on all of the different heroes and how they compare to each other. And of course, as these patches and as these updates are coming out, we're going to see different perspectives on these heroes. We're going to see them change. Some of them will get better, some of them will get worse. So definitely looking forward to keeping you appraised of how that goes as well. What did you think of this video? Do you agree with me? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed it, make sure you give me that thumbs up so I know you enjoy this video and you'd like to see more like it. If you haven't already, for more fun gaming adventures, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the bell to stay informed. Thanks for being a part of the fun with me, and until next time, play on. The hero trait for Storm is... Now let's talk about and how she can utilize Storm energy here in order to be successful. And for 50 energy and a 25-second cooldown, which I think is fairly efficient as well. That being said, it is... In terms of items, I'm thinking about the Arc Reactor, I'm thinking about Loki's Scepter, and I'm thinking about the